Shri Guru Shri Rupam Sarvajana Samanam Sadhvai Sadhvai Shri Radha Krishna Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Now Shri Krishna Krishna Shri Hare Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vajani Nirvishesh Shunyaji Pashati Chari Namo Krishna Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagati Gopesha Shubhika Kanchandura Vishirayani Vrishabhan Sudeti Gramami Nilachala Rasaya Nidaya Karma Nirvana Sudra Vanchari Rupesha Kripa Sindhu Devaja Patitanam Pavani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Guru Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Mukam Karoti Vachanam Sambhutam Gayate Yat Kripatam Shri Guru So yesterday we were focusing or discussing that how the scale is provided by the universal settings. But what is required to perform in any scale is heart, Vishnu qualities. So therefore the Lord is making a point that whatever level one is in, it does not matter. Whatever one is able to take up does not matter, provided two things. One, that the living entity, he accepts the Vedic instructions and directions. So that becomes yajna. And he starts the practice of sacrifice. Centered around Krishna. With the desire, and the second point is, with the desire to be on the rising curve, to go towards Krishna. If this is all I could do, that is all I could do. So let me do it as an offering to Krishna, with the desire to go towards Krishna. So that is, so both the aspects are very important. And that is why we were explaining that Karma Kanda and Bhakti Yoga are thereby linked, and that is why Prabhupada can explain Shuddha Bhakti within Karma Kanda. Because there is a link. The link is the basis foundation of Yajna, Vaishnava qualities. An attitude of sacrifice for the Lord, following the instructions, subservience to the instructions of the Vedas. They start taking prominence right from the basis of Karma Kanda. So therefore one cannot say that I can do anything and everything and that is called a sacrifice. It has to be yajna karma. It has to be centered around Krishna, being directed by the Vedic intentions. So one cannot say I am just taking care of my family and that's it. Wonderful. And I am doing sacrifice. I am doing sacrifice for the family. No. That is not just the principle which is being highlighted here. Just like you may say a bird, and she also gets food and first feeds its children, then she eats herself. So that kind of love and affection is there even in animals. What is the extra thing which one has done? just considering that as sacrifice. That is not sacrifice, that is nature's arrangement, that is programming. The Lord arranges mutual dependence so that people can survive. So that is programming of the Lord, it is not sacrifice. So sacrifice happens when we willingly and lovingly connect an activity to the Supreme. So that is following of the Vedas. Now the principle which comes in text 17 is this. That was the point at which we ended. Now if someone is more advanced or he thinks that he is more advanced, what is to be done? To follow Karma Yoga. So yes, we were basing the point that because the Lord is basing the whole grassroots on Yajna, that okay, sense gratification also based on Yajna, therefore Lord very confidently says, if you cannot do Karma Yoga, you do Karma Kanda. Because doing Karma Kanda, centered around Krishna, following the Vedic scriptures, will get elevated. So because the whole framework of protection and rise is given by the Lord. Therefore, the Lord so confidently makes this point. Now, whereas the Lord is discouraging now high jumps, let us see text 17. Yastad atmaratir evasya atmatirtrascha manavaha atmani evasa santushta tasya karyam na vidyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satisfied, for him there is no duty. A person who is fully Krishna conscious and fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many thousands of yajna performances. By such cleansing of consciousness, one becomes full confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to the Vedic injunctions. Such a person, Krishna conscious person, is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, woman, and similar infatuations. So what a beautiful linking Srila Prabhupada is doing here. If you read the verse, it looks so titillating. For one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is full of self-realization. Like that. Who is satisfied in the self only, fully satisfied. He has no duties to perform. No subjugating, no cooking, no vanity backups, no repair maintenance, no cleanliness. He has to perform. Free. Just take the feedback, go to sleep. So this verse looks very titillating, actually, and very captivating. Because when you just read the verse, it sounds so nice. What is the Lord telling? No duties to perform. No hard work, no running around, no running on the streets in food distribution, no running in the hostels, catching the boys. Hey, please come, like that. Nothing. It's so nice. So many times, a higher platform of bhakti is taken as an excuse to glide down to a lower platform. And sometimes that is called as advancement. How much you can instantiate some higher fabrics to substantiate some lower fabrics. We will see this becomes many times the state of the art. Sometimes you see materialistic people, they are so enthusiastic for what they do. It is so interesting to see. They are so enthusiastic. They have a foolish cause, or they have no cause. But still, they're so enthusiastic like that. On the other hand, the devotee, the topmost cause, the topmost urgency, but somehow the tempo doesn't come, like that. So we see that this is also a disease. And why? And therefore, you see, in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, this is being portrayed. So, Arjuna is portraying this particular type of mentality for our benefit. And the Lord is making that very clear. The Lord is making that very clear. So, what is the meaning? So, everything is what? A misrelation and a misrepresentation, misinterpretation, and miscorrelation. It's a misapplied concept actually. Because the verse in its own singleton setting or standalone setting appears that one has nothing to do, that's it. That is what the verse suggests. But the principle as it goes is that, if you read Prabhupada purports, how Srila Prabhupada is linking everything so perfectly. So therefore, material world, we can say that everything is true and everything is false. It only depends on how you link and what you link with what. Right? And that is why Mayavadis can read Bhagavad Gita and they find full substantiation and elaboration of the Mayavad principle that the form is impersonal and no form which exists. And devotees can read Bhagavad Gita and they find Krishna Prem there in every verse. And others can read Bhagavad Gita and they find management principle there, and some others can read Bhagavad Gita and they find nothing there. Because the state is nothing and the goal is nothing, therefore whatever they do, they find nothing. It is got nothing consciousness. This is that. So the proper linking is very important. Proper linking is very important. Therefore, you see many times, the famous argument we always hear about many times, that anybody has to do anything, he always makes a point. Prabhupada said this. And Prabhupada said everything actually, practically under the sun. To accommodate everybody. You know. So instead of saying Prabhupada said this, if you say, okay, this is what I can do, and this is what, my position I can offer, that makes more sense, like that. Because Prabhupada said, to accommodate everybody. So don't say Prabhupada said, you say what you can do. Because at least from that platform, one will be non-judgmental. At least from that platform, the seed of offense will be missing. That is the point. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining here that, you see, Prabhupada takes the same thread. He says self-realization means what? Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness. So many times, people, what they do is that they take one vague thing and they put whatever garbage they want to put in that vague thing. That is the problem. Because when the Shastras explain, the Shastras give a template. Please try to understand. The Shastras, when they explain concepts, the Shastras do not give detailed instantiations. Okay, self-realization means get up in the morning and chant your 16 rounds before 7 o'clock. The Shastras do not say like that. They give templates. And therefore, if one is not practiced enough, one is not deep enough, one is not guided enough and sufficient, and one is not humble enough, one is not learning enough, then what will happen is that one will, in that template, one will fill some garbage, instead of the right values to be put substantial. Just like when say books of physics teach some physics concepts, the books of physics will say force equals to mass into acceleration. Simple formula. Now the books will not say, 100 kilogram mass and 5 meter per square, 5 meter per second square acceleration means 500, you know, dyne of force. You know? The Shastras don't say like that. That force means if the mass is 100 and the acceleration is 5, then it becomes 500 times. That's a unit. So books you will not see like that. What do we see? We see a generic template. Right? Now, when you see learn this, all of us have learned this formula, very simple formula. But even after knowing this formula, many students commit mistake. Why? Because in the question paper, what comes? In the question paper, it is said, okay, mass is 20 milligrams, and force is, and acceleration is in the some other unit. So what do people do? Mass into acceleration, So 20 into 5, and that one, what is the unit? SI units, dynes, And what do you get in the exam? 0, Why? Because the proper conversion has to take place. If it is CGS system, it has to be converted into SI systems. So, like if the radius of the atom is in, what is that unit? There are various units. Angstrom. So you have to convert it into meters. So you have to understand angstrom means it carries a 10 to the power minus 10, whatever. This is not along with it. It's not 5. It's not the number 4.9. It has 10 to the power minus 10 associated with it also. So that means that a number carries a context. And if you do not know, so number with a context has to be converted into another context, and then you get a number, and then you can apply the formula. This is very important actually. So out of context, you pull a number here and you pull a number here and do the multiplication and give a number, pop up a number, like that. And that is called as full 0 marks, And that is what sometimes we wonder. I am applying a Shastric principle, Prabhupada had only said, I am applying this Shastric principle also, I am multiplying and giving, but the returns what I am getting is blast. So that means the conversion is not done properly, the context is not taken properly into account. This is a very important principle because the Shastras give us templates. So here the Lord is explaining in the Shastras self-realization. So what is self-realization? Self-realization is not a vague concept. It's not something in the air. Self-realization. What do you mean by self-realization? Somebody says that I drink wine and I am just thinking, not about girls. I am just thinking about self-realization. It triggers self-realization. One of my relatives is speaking this point. He said, my father always allowed me to drink. And I was drinking. And the music was going on. Some jumbo whatever music. But I was not into the lyrics of the music. And I was thinking of the divine. Then I made the point that yes, Prabhupada says that one can drink wine and think that the taste of this wine is Krishna. And he makes spiritual advancement. So he was able to relate to this point. So he must be thinking. But then, you see that concept of self-realization, very weak concept. What is that concept? So the whole thing is an aspect of misrepresentation or misappropriation. And therefore, Prabhupada, when he begins the purport, Prabhupada does not give any chance for any imagination or speculation or interpretation. And Prabhupada substantiates the right value. Self-realization means Krishna consciousness. So if one is situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness, then he has no duties. And Prabhupada again at the end of the purport is substantiating no duties means no wine woman, No wine woman in infatuations, So you see Prabhupada is fitting the right values in the variables. Isn't that? The template variables, okay, situated in sense gradana, self-realization and no duties. And Prabhupada is fitting the right values. What does it mean self-realization? Krishna consciousness. बराबर सुबह 4 बजे उठना है, 16 वाला जप करना है, कुकिंग करना है, प्रसाद लेना है, क्लीनिंग करना है, उसको बोलते हैं कृष्ण consciousness. And what is this duty? Is this duty which is being told about? This duty means material duties, social duties. My friend is calling me for party, bar party, jaunki nahi. So there is no duty to perform for one who is self-realized. That is the point. Some relatives are getting married here and there, like that. So there is no duty to perform. That is the principle actually. So therefore Prabhupada substantiates what a value Prabhupada puts in the variable called as duty. You just see the value what Prabhupada is putting is that material arrangements like wine, women, infatuation and a combination and permutation of all. That's all. That is all what is defined as duty. So in this way we understand. So now if you instantiate the variables properly, then there is no scope of any interpretation or imagination. Where is the scope of imagination now? 4 lines of purport, and Prabhupada makes it so clear. So therefore, we need to learn. We need to grow in our understanding and consciousness. Because the whole problem, the principles are potent. The living entity, sincerity is wonderful. And the potency is there in the living entity. The only problem which happens is, like now, why the problems happen in devotee circle? Everything is potent. The process is potent. The devotee is sincere. The potentiality is there. The mission is going on. Everything is going on a rising curve. Then why are there problems? Misinterpretation. That is the main thing actually. And misrepresentation. What devotees quote wonderful principle, लेकिन गलत जगह पे quote कर दिया है ना? And therefore the result comes heartbreaks, fights, dissensions, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, how if you quote and apply a Shastric principle and see through a Shastric vision, how there can be problems, how there can be fights, how there can be heartbreaks? It is simply misappropriation and nothing else actually. So therefore, again, yesterday I was making that point, again I repeat the same point, that therefore Shastras in the first place give a warning. That because you are not experienced what to apply where and all that, therefore in the first place don't be judgmental. If you have to experiment, you experiment on your own self and keep testifying by the statistics which come forth. But do not take a principle and throw it at the head and the face of the other person, bang on his face. Because we don't know his context. We don't know what formula he is applying at that present point. So don't be judgmental. It's a very important principle actually to be applied. Otherwise you see, such a beautiful verse, but if one does not study it in the proper context, one does not instantiate the variables properly, full good-over understanding is going to give. Yeah, and that's why sometimes people read Shastras and they get nothing out of it. And it's such a wonder, It's such a beautiful Shastra. And one word is so powerful. And Prabhupada says, there is no comparison, each and every word has the potency to, purify and take the living entity back to Godhead. There is no comparison, no competition. Each and every word can bring about a radical transformation in the lives of people and all that, and create a revolution in his life, in pious life and all that. Prabhupada says all that, and that is true. It's not an exaggeration. ऐसे ही बोल दिया है ना बड़ा चढ़ा के थोड़ा सेंटीमेंट में आ गए प्रॉपर मूड में आ गए थोड़ा और लिख दिया है ना each and every word can create the revolution in the empire's life, the fallen degraded civilization. So Prabhupada writes all these things. So the point and the understanding is that yes, all that is true, but it has to be applied in the right place. It has to be applied in the right place. To first year devotee, we cannot tell, you give your life for the Sankirtan mission, he will say, nahi, tum do, main ja Like one time I was telling my mother, I was young in Krishna consciousness, and I said, that human life is chanting 16 rounds, and I thought she'll get inspired, but she said, tum kar to rahe ho na, ho gaya na kota, Very simple answer. And all my enthusiasm went for toss is a ticket. So the point is what? That everything has a context. And you take things out of context, it becomes good, like that. So first year you cannot say, what is that? Jeevera lalasa ityuti dhaye, Shishnudhar parayana, Krishna nahi paye. It nahi chahiye. You only keep your Krishna. मुझे प्रसाद दो तू. तुम नहीं दोगे तो मैं इसमें जाके खाऊंगा. Isn't that? I'll go to a restaurant and eat, I'll go to mess and eat. तुम अपना Shishnudhar parayana इतना नहीं आप तक ना सकते. Isn't that? So everything is a context actually. So therefore bhakti is not very much a shoot game. The problem with sadhaka, what happens is that as soon as he gets principles, he starts shooting, Hey, you take this one, you take this one also, like that, and you take this principle, and you take this principle, So it's just a shoot game, here and there, just like, this holy, as soon as you get water and pitchkari, punch, तुमको खेलना लगता पड़ा. If you are so interested in fluffing in water, you put water on yourself. Isn't that? So this is the shoot game actually. Actually, bhakti is not a shoot game. Bhakti is a game of investment. It's a piggy bank game. What is piggy bank game? A children, he gets some money. As soon as he gets some money, immediately he goes into his piggy bank in that. उसके अंदर गया, चलो. It goes inside. So anything, any principle and understanding we get, we should play a piggy bank game. उसको पहले अपने अंदर डालो, and then see how it holistically reflects like that. Not play shoot. नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो नाकृतेनेह कश्चन न चस्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चित् अर्थाव्यपश्रयः. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties. See, now the Lord is making the point. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of prescribed duties. That means immediate conclusion will say, now the Lord says, so, because self-realized, no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work. Nor has he to depend on any other living being. A self-realized man is no longer obliged to perform any prescribed duty, save and accept activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either, as will be explained in the following words. A Krishna conscious man, any person, man or demigod, whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligation. So what Prabhupada is saying, activities in Krishna consciousness is the main point. That is the variable, that is the value which has to be instantiated. So and Prabhupada makes the point, Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either. Let us read the next verse. Tasmadasakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma paramapnoti purusham. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. So beautiful conclusion here, and how the Lord is taking Arjuna's argument and turning it on him himself. So we see that. So we were making this point yesterday also, that a person may say that therefore because I am advanced and I am transcendental, so I don't need these things. Like a student may say I am transcendental, so I don't need to study. Why should I study? Only Krishna Kadhanam and Gaur Prem and Krishna Prem, and all that. So now our devotees are very experienced. As soon as they hear any such terminology, they understand this has to be instantiated with the values called as vessel washing, sabji cutting, instead of playing door frame, Krishna frame fight. So that is a very what value it takes in vessel washing. Here is Gaur frame, here is Krishna frame. Isn't that enough? So you see the Lord's argument so nice, you know. Lord is saying we are so transparent. It doesn't matter. You don't need to do it. So even if you do it, it doesn't matter. So, but and the Lord is giving a warning also. You see how this argument is simply theoretical and bogus. So we can understand from the Lord's speech. The Lord is saying, okay, fine. Even if I accept this argument, still you can do it. But now in the very next verse, 19th verse, the Lord is giving a warning. The Lord is telling, when you do it, mind it, don't be attached to results then. You know? So because the point is that everything is here. You know? Person says, one should not be attached. One should be selfless. One should have service attitude. You know? So speaking is wonderful. But when one does seva and actually things come, then it is very difficult to give it up. इतना मेहनत किया अभी छुआए वो दे दूँ. And therefore the Lord is giving a warning. ठीक है आपने बड़ा बड़ा बोल दिया पहले, लेकिन जब आप ड्यूटी करेंगे तब आपको, so now then you tolerate the itch, don't be attached to results. Because if you do not tolerate the itch and start itching, you will not attain the supreme. So that means in the very context in which the Lord is accepting this argument also for namesake, in that context also it is very clear, simply a theoretical argument. You know? Because nobody can stand the force of material attractions. Nobody can stand the fury of material titillations and the provocations of material titillations. And therefore, Dayanand who quotes this always, you know, Churchill's statements, you know. Hundreds of times he quotes this statement. What is that statement? You want to test the character of a person, give him power. You know? As soon as you give him power, immediately something happens. You know? Previously very humble, simple, three goals. You know, like that. As soon as you give him power, immediately something else happens, and you are wondering, इसको क्या हो गया? इतना अच्छा खासा था. So the point is that actually it's not. It's so the whole thing is that it's not easy, and therefore, you know, the principle that the Lord is explaining is that work for purification. You know? Do not assume positions and status in Krishna consciousness. The moment you assume position, consciousness, some error creeps in. Why? Because some error creeps in. So many times actually, one takes shelter of some absurd or some very lofty principles because one starts assuming a certain position and status in Krishna consciousness. And the moment one assumes that, then why the error creeps in? Because one loses the ground. And as soon as one loses the ground of fundamental foundations, then it is just a matter of time that the provocations of Maya will allow action. And therefore there is a chance that either one may get drifted off, or one may get diverted into subsidiary priorities, or an expert international world champion in offenses. He will play world champion critic innings, and always sixers are happening. Sometimes the ball is hitting that devotee, sometimes it is hitting that devotee, so like that. And we see this is the problem which happens, and therefore it is not very healthy. Understand and assume. Arjuna is assuming a position that I have got this realization, I have become realized now, I don't need to do anything. And that is what the Lord is pointing out. Don't assume. You better base it on ground reality of following. That is what the Lord is explaining here. So positive attraction to the Lord is not a weird concept which has no, which has no intersection or which has no projection on this material world, like that. Positive attraction to the Lord. See, the spiritual world is based on material world. It grows from material world. Basically, the material world is based on spiritual world. So there is a linkage actually. And the Lord has made this material world in such a way also that through this material world one can link up to the higher realm also. That is how this material world is also made. So one cannot just say that no, spiritual realm means there is no projection here. There is a projection. And the Lord, if you read Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is explaining projections only always. This is not what the Lord explains. When the Lord says Rasoham Abdu Kante, what is he explaining? He is explaining projections, isn't that? When the Lord is explaining Karma Kanda, from there he is taking it up, he is projections, isn't that? So therefore, the whole thing is that the positive attraction of the Lord has to be tested by the sustenance of the fundamental ground pillars as well. The fundamental ground pillars as well. So what is positive? What is called as morality, spirituality has to be a superset of it. Otherwise, what kind of spirituality it is? Isn't it? The concept of transcendental morality is applied in emergencies. It is not applied every day, Otherwise, it is duplicity, isn't that? Right. So on the war field, Krishna is telling Gil, there one can apply transcendental morality if Krishna is present in front. But every day you cannot say transcendental morality. Okay, first time we are Krishna can we may lie to parents, like that. But every day we keep lying, becomes a problem. It's not proper. It becomes duplicitous. So this is a very important principle actually, which the Lord is explaining here. The Supreme is the personality of all devotees and liberation for the impersonalists. A person therefore acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of birth is certainly making progress towards the supreme goal of life. Arjuna is told that he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. It's very interesting. The Lord is telling on one hand you fight, and the Lord is telling on the other hand you don't be attached to the goal. Because what happens is that in the pursuit of fighting, the attachment to the kingdom and the throne will come. And therefore the Lord is giving a disclaimer. Now you are saying big words of detachment, renunciation, sannyas and all that. But then when you do it, you will face difficulty there. There you apply strength. And there you have to also fight like that. And therefore the Lord is saying without attachment to the result of the world. So he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra for the interest of Krishna, because Krishna wanted him to fight. To be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment. But to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. That is perfect action of the highest degree recommended by the Supreme Personality of God. Vedic rituals like prescribed sacrifices are performed for purification of impious activities that were performed in the field of sense gratification. But action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of good or evil words. A Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the result, but acts on behalf of Krishna on all kinds of activities, but is completely non-attached. Yes.
The word transcendental can be applied in this way or not? Like, at least we can raise our consciousness in such a way we get unaffected by what people say about us, what people think about us, or what mistakes take place. In that way, becoming transcendental is good or not?
Yeah, that way becoming transcendental is fine. But it is fixed, it is based on fixity or clarity of understanding. You see, Prabhupada is mentioned in the previous purport that actually, you see, what happens is that when a devotee goes on, he has clarity. So that unaffected nature has to be fixed based on your clarity. It should not be based on just dry, assumption of that I am unaffected. Right? That should be the point. So unaffected should not be in the air concept. We are unaffected because we are attached somewhere. We have connected somewhere, like that. We are not unaffected just because we are so transcendental that we are unaffected. No, you will be pulled down. So that's how it happens. So therefore, this section of verses starts about talking about a renunciate, a sannyasi. It is not talking about a brahmana because brahmana is in the varnashrama folds. So one who is self-realized, he does not do it. It is talking about sannyasis and renunciates actually. It's not about brahmana. The brahmana within the brahmana is within the varnashrama. A brahmana has reciprocation back and forth, you know. So he is not being talked about, you know, when it says no duties. So then it is said that no duty means no material duty. That is what the Lord is instantiating the principles properly. And thus we see that the so thus we see that the principles of, you know, a lofty empire or a lofty building of Krishna conscious realization and advancement has to be based on the foundational pillars which are there on a ground level, such a level where even normal mundane people or, you know, new people are also able to do that. Therefore, bhakti has to be a superset and not some, you know, disjoint set which nobody is able to relate with that what's happening. Therefore, bhakti, and therefore you see when the Lord defines bhakti, you know, the bhakti will follow all ground things. Bhakti will be logical, bhakti will be reasonable, bhakti will be accommodative, you know, has to be, you know, reasonable, it has to be logical, it has to be accommodative, it has to follow morality, more or less. Broadly, in the summation, you know, it follows morality, you know, like that. And so it has to be a superset. And therefore it is said, Pratyek Shavakamandan, then Bhakti is fully experientiable at all levels. Like that. So that is the understanding which the Lord is giving here. So we stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. So we'll continue again.